Good evening, actually. So tonight's not over yet. So I'm going to talk about fallen tree risk damage assessment. So let's start. So the problems that we identified are private property damage, city assets damage, and people safety. So that's those are the issues that happens when we do have some fallen trees, obviously. So how could we define the fallen tree risk factors? So we took some, not all, because there are many factors that could happen. So location is one of them. So sometimes the trees are not in the proper location. That involves asphalt and many other aspects. Environmental conditions, the tree age, and the tree growth profile. Those, like the last two, are kind of like related, but that is something really important to consider. So the data science analysis techniques that we can use, the approaches. So we use the first one, like exploratory data analysis on some of the data sets that we have available. So the first one is the tree inventory map. There are two. One is like a shapefile that we can check the geometries and all the tree locations. And also we took the neighborhood as well to kind of like map and group the trees by neighborhood. I would like also to talk about the other tree, which is collecting additional data. So we identified some good data that we could have in the data set as a growth factor, which is like one of the variables to measure the tree age and the height as well. We do have the DBH. The DBH is like the diameter at rest height, which is one of the ways to measure a tree height. So there is it's a technique to measure a tree. So that column is present in the data set. So we use that as one of the ways to measure the risk. We also can later on do some data augmentation using innovative CGI simulation of realistic tree growth. That's really fancy and really cool. So I'm going to show you guys a little bit about that. So just a sec. Okay, so I'm going to show you a simulation of a leader tree growth. So that considers like those variables that I mentioned, like the DBH, the growth factor. So we have a way to measure that and simulate that, so we can know that.
So let me explain more details about this technique. So we use CGI software. It is freeware. We didn't pay for anything, but there is also Python integrated engine in this software. So we could pull any data from simulation, including tree height, tree age, even amount of leaves on the tree. So also we can simulate the growth of tree like this. And here is two applications for this stuff. First, we can augment our data sets with additional data without going from tree to tree and measuring it with a ruler. So the second application is that this is actually the view from the drone, and flying over the trees, we can take a pictures of trees and use this data as a training data set for our, for example, machine learning or deep learning techniques to predict the height of the tree. For example, knowing that this is the tree of age 6, we can tell that this is the height of the tree is roughly 1.8 meters. So and then we can extend our data sets with this information.
Yes, thanks. There is also other interesting things that The growth factor is something that varies for like depending on the species, depending on the tree, and those two simulations were done with two different kinds of trees. We are also going to talk about the analysis that we did, the exploratory data analysis. At first, using the data sets, like the first one was like pretty much like a quick analysis of like the distribution of trees per neighborhood. So we used Python pandas, as you can see. After that, there are some research to measure the tree age, some formulas and some theses based on the DBH. And we kind of like simulated that using a formula. So we only have the DBH in the data set, so we took that as a parameter and then we customized like a formula. So the first visualization that we have here are the trees that are low level risk based on that formula.
So these trees height lower than 5 meters, so we set these trees as low risk trees, so there is no any problems with the trees. Another group of trees is those with height between 5 and 20 meters, so these trees are potentially dangerous and that can turn into risky trees. And third group of trees is high level risk trees. And these trees are higher than 20 meters. Our estimation is rough. We went through a lot of academic articles trying to find a formula of how to height of tree correlates with its DBH. And we set the formula of parabolic function. So if we had more precise data about height, so we could label these trees more precisely. So, but this is just to show that we can group potentially dangerous trees, so areas, and we can tackle this issue by cutting them down or treating or doing something with them.
Right. Well, that was the last visualization that we have. So going back to the augmentation of the data, there are other aspects like insects, low quality soil, pollution, road salt, and we could also augment the data using the drone imaging that would help along with the CGI simulation. And then using machine learning to group all of that, and then we could have like a better and accurate analysis on the trees. And then talking about the benefits, so preventative tree maintenance, reduce property damage, and lower insurance premiums. That is pretty important, and that benefits both the city and insurance companies. Yeah, those are benefits that we saw, and there are lots of potential ideas and benefits for that. So thank you guys.